There comes a moment in life when you grow tired, not from failing, not from striving, but from constantly trying to convince the world that you are worthy of standing where you stand. You rehearse your achievements in your mind, polish your words before you speak, and carry invisible evidence of your value wherever you go. But what if I told you that your existence is not a courtroom and you are not on trial? What if the greatest freedom you will ever experience is the realization that you do not owe anyone proof of your brilliance, your growth, or your becoming? Today, we are going to unlearn the exhausting habit of performing for approval and step into a quieter, deeper power, the power of knowing that sometimes you don't have to prove yourself. Your worth is not a performance. It is not a stage where you must constantly rehearse lines of achievement and recite them on demand. Yet so many of us have been taught to live as though life is an audition. We polish our talents, magnify our successes, and hide our struggles as if someone is always judging whether we deserve to stay. We smile wider, speak louder, work harder, not always because we want to, but because we fear that if we stop performing, the applause will fade. And somewhere along the way, we begin to believe that the applause is proof that we matter. But applause is temporary. It rises, it echoes, and then it disappears. If your worth depends on the noise of approval, you will forever be chasing sound. True worth is quieter than that. It is steady. It does not tremble when someone doubts you. It does not shrink when someone overlooks you. It does not grow larger because someone finally recognizes you. Your worth is not something handed to you by an audience. It is something rooted within you long before anyone thought to look your way. When you live as though your worth is a performance, you become exhausted. You measure your value by productivity. You measure your importance by how needed you are. You measure your success by how impressed others seem. And if one day you are not the strongest, not the smartest, not the most praised in the room, you begin to question your place entirely. That is a heavy way to live, always competing, always proving, always justifying your existence. Consider this: a mountain does not stand tall because it is applauded. It stands tall because that is its nature. The ocean does not roar to convince anyone of its depth. It simply is deep. In the same way, your intelligence does not need constant demonstration to be real. Your kindness does not need recognition to be meaningful. Your growth does not need validation to be valid. There is strength in stepping off the stage. There is courage in refusing to exhaust yourself for approval. When you understand that your worth is not a performance, you begin to act from authenticity rather than fear. You choose excellence not to impress, but to express. You speak not to be admired, but to be honest. You work not to prove your value, but because your value inspires you to work. And perhaps the greatest freedom comes when you realize that not everyone will clap, and that is perfectly fine. Some people are not your audience. Some rooms were never meant to hold your light, but that does not dim it. It simply means your light belongs elsewhere. So breathe. Release the pressure to constantly demonstrate who you are. You do not have to over-explain your boundaries, overwork for acceptance, or overextend to secure your place. Your worth was never a show to begin with. It is a truth, steady, quiet, and unshakable. Not every battle deserves your energy. There will always be noise in this world, opinions thrown carelessly, judgments formed too quickly, criticisms offered by those who have never carried your burdens. If you choose to respond to every misunderstanding, you will spend your life fighting wars that were never meant for you. Energy is sacred. It is the fuel for your dreams, your healing, your becoming. And when you scatter it in every direction, trying to win every argument and correct every false perception, you will find yourself too drained to build the life you truly desire. There is a difference between standing up for yourself and constantly defending yourself. One is rooted in self-respect. The other often grows from insecurity. When you know who you are, you begin to recognize that some conflicts are invitations to distraction. Not every comment requires a reply. Not every accusation requires a defense. Not every challenge requires you to step into the ring. Sometimes the strongest position is stillness. Sometimes the wisest response is silence. Understand this clearly. People will project their fears onto you. They will question your choices because they are afraid to question their own. They will criticize your growth because it reminds them of their stagnation. If you try to fix every misconception about you, you will lose yourself in the process. You cannot control how others interpret your journey. You can only control how you continue walking it. Imagine how much further you could go if you stopped pausing to fight every small battle along the way. Every unnecessary argument steals time from your purpose. Every petty conflict drains strength from your progress. Your energy is not unlimited. Where you invest it determines what grows in your life. If you invest it in resentment, resentment will grow. If you invest it in purpose, purpose will expand. There is also humility in choosing peace. Walking away does not mean you are weak. It means you are discerning. It means you understand that your peace is more valuable than your pride. Some victories cost too much. They may win you an argument but steal your calm. They may prove you right but leave you restless. Wisdom is knowing that being right is not always worth the price of your tranquility. When you stop fighting every battle, something remarkable happens. Your focus sharpens, your mind clears, your heart feels lighter. You begin to move with intention rather than reaction. You conserve your strength for the battles that truly matter, protecting your integrity, defending your values, building your future. Those are worthy fights. So pause before you respond. Ask yourself whether this moment deserves your power. Not every challenge is a calling. Not every confrontation is a duty. Some are simply distractions dressed as importance. And when you learn to choose your battles wisely, you reclaim control over your energy, and that is a victory far greater than winning any argument. Confidence does not beg for validation. It does not knock on every door asking to be seen, nor does it stretch out its hands waiting to be filled with approval. Real confidence is quiet. It moves without announcing itself. It does not argue for its place at the table because it already knows it belongs there. When you are confident, you do not feel the urge to convince others of your strength, your intelligence, or your beauty. You simply carry it, the way the sky carries its vastness, without explanation. Too often, what we call confidence is only a disguise for insecurity. It speaks loudly, demands attention, and constantly seeks reassurance. It needs to be told it is enough again and again because deep down it is unsure. But true confidence is different. It does not rise and fall with compliments or criticism. Praise does not inflate it, and doubt does not deflate it. It remains steady because it is rooted in self-awareness, not public opinion. When you understand this, you stop chasing validation in subtle ways. You stop over-explaining your decisions so that everyone will agree with them. You stop reshaping your personality to fit into rooms that feel unfamiliar. You stop dimming your light for those who are uncomfortable with its brightness. You begin to trust your own judgment even when it stands alone. And standing alone no longer feels frightening. It feels freeing. There will be moments when people misunderstand you. They may question your choices, doubt your direction, or fail to recognize your growth. In those moments, confidence does not panic. It does not scramble to present evidence. It does not rush to correct every false narrative. Instead, it remains calm, understanding that time reveals what arguments cannot. Your life will speak louder than any defense you could offer. Confidence also allows you to accept that not everyone will see your value, and that is all right. Validation from others is pleasant, but it is not necessary for survival. If someone overlooks your effort or fails to appreciate your presence, it does not erase your contribution. Your worth does not decrease simply because someone failed to notice it. When you rely solely on external validation, you give others control over your sense of self. When you cultivate inner confidence, you take that control back. There is strength in walking into a room and not needing to impress anyone. There is peace in making choices that align with your values, even if they are unpopular. There is power in knowing that approval is optional, not essential. Confidence does not demand applause. It does not beg to be chosen. It understands that what is meant for you will recognize you without persuasion. As you grow, let your confidence mature into something gentle but firm. Let it be the quiet assurance that you are capable even when unrecognized. Let it be the steady belief that you are enough even when unpraised. And when the world withholds validation, stand anyway. Not in defiance, not in arrogance, but in certainty. Because confidence, when it is real, does not beg, it simply believes. You are enough without applause. Before anyone noticed you, before anyone praised you, before anyone affirmed your efforts, you were already complete. The need for applause is something the world teaches us. From childhood, we are clapped for when we do well, rewarded when we succeed, acknowledged when we achieve. Slowly, without realizing it, we begin to connect the sound of approval with the feeling of worth. And when the clapping stops, we question ourselves. But silence does not mean you are failing. A quiet room does not mean you are insignificant. Sometimes the most meaningful growth happens without an audience. The seeds beneath the soil do not receive applause as they stretch and break open in the dark. Yet they grow. They push through layers of resistance without praise, without recognition, without anyone celebrating their effort. And one day they rise above the ground, strong and undeniable. There will be seasons in your life when no one cheers for you. You will work hard and feel unseen. You will overcome struggles that no one fully understands. You will choose integrity over convenience, discipline over distraction, healing over bitterness. And no one may applaud those decisions. But those quiet victories matter. They shape your character. They strengthen your spirit. They build a foundation that does not depend on external noise. If you only feel valuable when others acknowledge you, you place your identity in fragile hands. Applause is unpredictable. It can be loud one day and absent the next. If your confidence rises and falls with it, you will live on an emotional roller coaster controlled by other people's reactions. But when you understand that you are enough without applause, something shifts inside you. You begin to act from conviction instead of craving. This does not mean appreciation is meaningless. Kind words are beautiful. Recognition is encouraging. Gratitude from others can warm the heart, but they should be additions to your sense of self, not the foundation of it. The foundation must come from within, from the quiet knowledge that your efforts matter even when unnoticed, that your presence has value even when uncelebrated. There is dignity in doing good work that no one sees. There is strength in choosing growth that no one praises. There is maturity in continuing forward without needing constant reassurance. When you release the need for applause, you free yourself from performing for approval. You begin to pursue excellence because it aligns with who you are, not because it earns you attention. And in that freedom, you discover something powerful. You discover that your worth is steady. It does not echo. It does not fade. It does not wait for permission. Whether the room is full or empty, whether the world is watching or not, you remain enough. Stand in that truth. Move in that truth. Live in that truth. Because even in silence, even without clapping hands or approving voices, you are and have always been enough. Let your work speak. You don't have to shout. In a world that rewards noise, it can feel as though volume equals value. The loudest voice in the room often seems the most confident, the most powerful, the most certain. But noise is not the same as substance. Volume is not the same as impact. There is a quiet strength in allowing your actions to carry your message without constant announcement. When you are secure in what you are building, you do not feel pressured to broadcast every step. You do not rush to display every plan before it has taken shape. You understand that growth requires focus, and focus requires silence. The more energy you spend talking about what you will do, the less energy you may have to actually do it. There is discipline in restraint. There is wisdom in letting results unfold before seeking recognition. Some people shout because they are trying to convince others. Others shout because they are trying to convince themselves. But when your work is genuine, when your effort is consistent, when your dedication is real, you do not need to raise your voice to prove it. Over time, commitment becomes visible, integrity becomes evident, progress becomes undeniable. Consider how nature operates. The sunrise does not make an announcement before it appears. It simply rises, steady and faithful. The tree does not declare its growth each day. It deepens its roots quietly, season after season, until its presence speaks for itself. In the same way, your persistence, your discipline, and your integrity will speak louder than any declaration ever could. There will be moments when others underestimate you because you are not loud about your ambitions. Let them. There will be times when people overlook you because you are not constantly promoting yourself. Let them. Underestimation can be a hidden advantage. It gives you space to grow without pressure. It allows your work to mature without interference. And when the results finally appear, they will not need explanation. This does not mean you should shrink yourself or refuse opportunities to share your voice. It means that your voice should be supported by substance. Speak when it adds value. Share when it serves purpose. But never feel obligated to shout simply to be seen. Your worth is not measured by how much attention you command. It is measured by the depth of your character and the consistency of your effort. When you let your work speak, you build a reputation rooted in reliability rather than rhetoric. People learn to trust what you produce, not just what you promise. They begin to associate your name with quality, with steadiness, with follow-through. That kind of credibility cannot be manufactured through noise. It is earned through action. So focus on the work. Refine your craft. Strengthen your discipline. Improve quietly. Grow steadily. And trust that when the time comes, your results will speak with a clarity that shouting never could. Those who misunderstand you are not your assignment. Not everyone is meant to grasp your heart, your motives, or the path you are walking. Some people will look at your decisions through the lens of their own fears. Others will interpret your boundaries as rejection, your silence as arrogance, your growth as betrayal. And if you are not careful, you will spend precious years trying to translate yourself into a language they were never willing to learn. It is a heavy burden to carry the responsibility of being understood by everyone. You begin to over-explain. You soften your truth. You reshape your story so it feels more comfortable to their ears. You edit your personality until it becomes easier to digest. But in doing so, you slowly distance yourself from who you truly are. The desire to be understood turns into the habit of self-betrayal. There is a difference between healthy communication and endless justification. Explaining yourself once with clarity and respect is enough. Repeating yourself over and over in hopes of finally earning acceptance is where exhaustion begins. When someone is committed to misunderstanding you, no amount of explanation will satisfy them. They are not seeking clarity. They are seeking confirmation of their own assumptions. You must learn to recognize when understanding is possible and when it is not. Some hearts are open. Some minds are curious. Those conversations are worth having. But others have already decided who you are before you speak. They are not listening to hear you. They are listening to defend their version of you. And that is not your assignment to fix. Your assignment is to grow, to heal, to build, to become. It is not to manage every opinion about you. It is not to correct every false narrative. It is not to chase every person who walks away with a distorted image of your character. The more time you spend trying to repair how you exist in someone else's mind, the less time you have to strengthen who you truly are. Freedom begins when you accept that misunderstanding is sometimes unavoidable. Even the clearest message can be distorted by a closed heart. Even the kindest intention can be misread by a guarded spirit. That does not mean you have failed. It simply means you cannot control the lens through which others see you. There is peace in releasing that responsibility. When you stop trying to be perfectly understood, you start living more honestly. You speak with sincerity instead of strategy. You act with integrity instead of calculation. You allow people to respond as they will, knowing their response is a reflection of them, not a definition of you. Some will misunderstand you and leave. Let them. Some will misjudge you and remain distant. Let them. The ones who are meant to walk with you will seek understanding rather than assume the worst. They will ask instead of accuse. They will listen instead of label. Protect your energy. Protect your truth. And remember, your life's work is not to convince every doubter. It is to become fully yourself, whether understood or not. Self-respect means walking away from unnecessary proving. It is the quiet decision to no longer stand in rooms where your value is constantly questioned. It is the moment you realize that explaining your worth to someone determined to doubt it is not strength, it is self-abandonment. There is a subtle but powerful shift that happens when you choose dignity over debate, peace over persuasion. For a long time, you may have believed that staying and proving yourself was a sign of resilience. You thought endurance meant absorbing skepticism, tolerating disrespect, and working twice as hard to earn half the recognition. You convinced yourself that if you just tried a little more, achieved a little more, explained a little better, they would finally see you clearly. But self-respect asks a different question. Why must you exhaust yourself to be acknowledged? Walking away is not weakness, it is clarity. It is understanding that your energy is too valuable to be spent on people who have already made up their minds about you. When you respect yourself, you stop volunteering for trials where you are both the defendant and the defense attorney. You stop participating in conversations that feel like interrogations. You stop shrinking, stretching, and reshaping yourself just to fit into expectations that were never designed with you in mind. There is courage in leaving what diminishes you. It takes strength to step back from a dynamic where you are constantly required to validate your intelligence, your intentions, or your integrity. Self-respect recognizes that love does not demand endless proof. Friendship does not require constant defense. Professional respect should not feel like a competition for basic acknowledgement. When proving becomes a pattern, it is often a signal that the environment is misaligned with your worth. Walking away does not always mean physically leaving a place or a person. Sometimes it means emotionally detaching from the need to convince. It means choosing not to engage in arguments that reduce you. It means refusing to internalize doubt that does not belong to you. It means setting boundaries without apology. You can remain present while no longer participating in the exhausting cycle of justification. When you practice self-respect, your posture changes. You speak calmly instead of urgently. You listen without scrambling to defend yourself. You accept that not everyone will offer you the fairness you deserve, and you refuse to beg for it. There is a steadiness that comes from knowing you can remove yourself from anything that requires you to prove your humanity. And as you walk away from unnecessary proving, something remarkable happens. You create space. Space for relationships where you are trusted. Space for work where your contributions are valued. Space for peace where your mind is not constantly preparing arguments in defense of who you are. In that space, you begin to feel lighter. Self-respect is not loud. It does not announce its departure with drama. It simply recognizes when enough is enough. It chooses dignity over desperation. And in choosing to walk away from what constantly questions you, you affirm something powerful. Your worth is not up for negotiation. True power is knowing you owe no one proof of your existence. It is the understanding that your right to be here is not conditional. You do not need extraordinary achievements to justify your space. You do not need constant productivity to validate your presence. You do not need to shrink, reshape, or overextend yourself to make others comfortable with your light. You are here because you are meant to be here. That is enough. From a young age, many of us are taught, directly or indirectly, that we must earn our place, earn attention, earn love, earn respect, earn rest, as if simply existing is not sufficient reason to belong. This belief quietly follows us into adulthood. We feel pressure to constantly demonstrate our usefulness, to prove our intelligence, to justify our boundaries. And when we are not actively achieving or pleasing, we may feel guilt, as though we are taking up space without permission. But existence is not a privilege granted by public opinion. It is not a reward for performance. It is a birthright. The air you breathe does not ask for credentials. The ground beneath your feet does not demand proof that you deserve to stand on it. Nature does not require you to present accomplishments before allowing you to witness its beauty. You are part of this world not because you convinced it, but because you are inherently woven into it. When you internalize this truth, something inside you settles. The restless need to justify yourself begins to fade. You no longer feel obligated to explain why you think the way you do, dream the way you do, or choose the way you do, unless you genuinely want to share. Your boundaries become firm, not because you are defensive, but because you are secure. You stop arguing for your humanity in rooms that question it. This kind of power is quiet but unshakable. It does not depend on agreement. It does not crumble under criticism. It does not panic when misunderstood. It stands steady, rooted in the awareness that your existence is not a debate. People may challenge your ideas. They may disagree with your path. They may even walk away from your life, but none of that revokes your right to be here, to grow, to evolve. There is deep freedom in releasing the need to constantly prove that you matter. You begin to live more authentically. You make choices based on alignment rather than approval. You pursue goals because they fulfill you, not because they silence doubters. You rest without apology. You speak without fear of erasure. You occupy space without shrinking. True power is not domination. It is not loudness. It is not superiority. True power is self-acceptance so complete that external validation becomes optional. It is the calm confidence that says, I am here, and that is reason enough. And when you live from that place, you move differently, you carry yourself differently. You no longer perform for permission. You simply exist, fully, unapologetically, and free.